Time is the most important element in the photography of Doug DuBois. In a way, it's decisive well after the moment. It's the time before and between and after. A careful reading of the replay, long after the whistle is blown, constructs a timeline not apparent or obvious or expected. Now, the very nature of domestic life as a theme doesn't always fill young photographers with excitement, yet in Doug's work, we've seen a world through his family, and his family in a world. His latest work began when he first met a group of teenagers from a housing project on the southwest coast of Ireland, while serving as an artist in residence at the Serious Arts Center in Cove. And over the course of the next 5 years, Doug became part of another family at a time when the promise of childhood becomes the reality of adulthood. And the resulting work, My Last Day at 17, was published as a book last fall by Aperture. Please welcome Doug DuBois.
All right. Well, just want to thank everybody for coming out on a beautiful day. And I'm really honored to be here and share the stage with all the really amazing artists that came before me and will also come after me today and this evening. We're going to try to move fast through this. So as you just heard, I'm going to talk about my latest work, which My Last Day at 17, which is a book published by Aperture. And I'm just going to walk you through how the work came about and specifically how the book came about. It's a kind of interesting, clumsy story. And so let's begin. I'm going to move as fast as I can. This is, as you just heard, I was invited to Ireland just by chance, meeting the art director of a small art center in Cove, County Cork, which is in the south, called the Serious Arts Center. This is the view from the artist's apartment that I spent 5 summers living for about 6 weeks each summer. Cove is a quaint coastal town. Its claim to fame is as the last port of call of the Titanic. It is also the town where when the Lusitania got torpedoed, this is where the bodies came aboard. And it is also the port of call for the great migration of Irish in the mid-19th century into the 20th century. So Cove, in short, is a place that you leave. I came there in 2009. 2009 was the beginning of the Great Recession. The Celtic Tiger was no more. I had no idea what I wanted to do in Ireland. In fact, I almost didn't go. I have no connection to Ireland. I'm not Irish. But it was a free trip, and what the hell, right? So So the first thing I noticed was, of course, there was an enormous amount of construction, housing projects just lying fallow all over the island. And so my first idea was to take portraits of contractors next to the last thing that they built. So I called a lot of contractors. I called them up. I said, "Hi, I'm an American photographer, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to do this thing up at the Art Center. It's serious." I would always hear, "Oh, no bother, no bother, no bother. We'll talk later. We'll call you back tomorrow." And I go, "So I'll call you tomorrow. We're all set. We'll meet at this place." And they go, "Yeah, no bother, no bother." And of course, they never called back. They never met me. And I learned, I asked, how come everybody just says no bother? And I found out that in Ireland, no bother means one of two things. It either means what it says, no bother, that's okay. But in certain contexts, they're basically telling you to fuck off, and which is exactly what they were all telling me. And so I really got nowhere. This is just, again, a sign of the times. This is an 800-year-old castle for sale in Ireland, just outside of Cove. And so, but one of the things I asked as a condition of my residency was to work with a community group. I just wanted some attachment with the community. And I was interested at that time in 2009 of making blurb books. And I said, just give me a group of people and we're going to make a book together. I was thinking of the long, literary tradition in Ireland, et cetera. So the director got a group of young people together, basically had dropped out of school, but had done some photography, and we would meet twice a week or so, and we created a book. So about 2 weeks into my residency, in desperation, because I really hadn't made any photographs, I asked him to take me out that night. I said, look, I'm getting nowhere. Why don't you just take me to where you live or where you hang out? And so that night they brought me to 2 drinking spots. One is called The Steps, and that's the steps to the right on the morning after, and the other place is called End of the Woods. And in these spots I encountered 15, 20, very drunk, 14, 15-year-olds. And we're talking Irish drunk, which is a very different kind of drunk. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I work with big cameras, 4x5 in medium format, and I have lights. I'm all geared up. They're drinking. They're yelling at me. And the light, but the light is really beautiful around 9, 10 o'clock at night. And so I just find this one kid who has a kind of sweet face. And I just convinced him, I don't know how I convinced him, to hold still and let me bring the camera up really close. And it looks really peaceful, but as I brought him, his name is Lenny. I learned later, and I'm really am this close to Lenny, and Lenny's drunk, really drunk, and Lenny keeps doing this, and you all are photographers, so right? I have to do this to keep Lenny in focus. So we're doing a dance, right? Me and Lenny. And it's chaos, and they're all going, oh, Lenny, he really likes you. Why don't you give him a kiss, and all this stuff is happening. But I managed to get one shot with Lenny blowing out the smoke. And the photograph became really a touchstone for the project. I realized, and I'm shooting film, so I don't see this until I return to New York. But I realized that if Lenny's face, it really, if you look at his face, you can see both a past to his childhood, and you can see project into his future. And his future at that moment in 2009 was very limited. Lenny had no job. There was nothing out there for Lenny. And that began me thinking about this threshold, this notion of coming of age, and particularly coming of age in Ireland. Later that night, still the same night, my first night out with the kids, I was brought to Kevin's house. This is Kevin and Aaron. They were together at the time. That's Simone down in the corner. And I was brought up to Kevin's home, which was in a neighborhood called Russell Heights. And Russell Heights was a very typical Irish housing estate, marginally, a little rough around the edges, a lot of council housing. This is in Kevin's bedroom, or no, his sister Roisin's bedroom. And this is Kevin's picture of me with my 4x5 taking a picture of his sister Roisin. And there's 8 people crammed into this little room watching me work. And there's the picture I made of Roisin in her bed that very first night. Kevin and Aaron became a sort of my entree into this neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that you really wouldn't wander into unless unless you knew someone there. You had no reason to be there. And generally, the first week I was there, people would constantly they would literally drive by or walk by and they would just go, fucking perv, what the fuck are you doing in my neighborhood? And I would just say, I know Kevin, I know Aaron. They'd go, oh yeah, you're that American guy. You're at the art center. I go, yeah. I go, oh, it's all right. And so they were very, very important to me. And this is a photograph. This is me photographing Aaron. This is a photograph I made. That was Aaron's father taking a picture of me making the picture. And this is a picture of Aaron in her birthday dress on the eve of her 18th birthday. This is my first summer, 2009, photographing. And while I'm making this picture, Aaron just blurts out, I just realized this is my last day at 17. And I went, oh, you just gave me a title for this work. And so that first, during that residency, 2 weeks in, I was ready to leave. 2 weeks later, I'm begging the art center to let me come back the next summer, and the next summer, and the next summer, and the next summer. And I did it for 5 years, about 6 weeks. So I returned the next summer, and Erin has a baby. So it was indeed her last day at 17. She was actually pregnant at the time. She didn't know it. That is Charlie May. That's Kevin and Erin, so it was their baby. And so, no, we'll move on. This is Kevin. This is Kevin with Charlie May that first summer, kind of wondering what the hell happened to him. Eventually, Kevin and Aaron broke up. Unfortunately, Aaron had to have a restraining order on Kevin, who was pretty messed up and hurt her a few times fairly bad. It was that they were just way too young, and it was that kind of neighborhood. That kind of neighborhood. That's how things were dealt with there. There was also, during the 5-year period of photographing Kevin and Aaron and all the kids, there's often a lot of tension. So making this photograph, this is in 2009, again, I work with a large camera. This is all carefully posed. So this is about an hour's worth of work to make this picture. That was very interesting the first time. Maybe a little less interesting the second time. By the third time, they're done with me, because I was a pain in the ass. And, I do everything like direct the fingers and all of that. And I was like, move your hand, move the cigarette here, and then there, and then there, and there, and there. Well, after a while, after a number of years of doing this, Erin was just done. This is the last picture I made of Erin. She's like, look, I'm over this. Like, we can have a beer together, we can have some wine together, but I'm like, I don't want to be photographed. And she wasn't the only one that would say that. And there is nothing more humbling than begging a 14-year-old kid for a picture. But the thing that happened between Aaron and I is the battle that we would have over pictures often produced better photographs. So this was really almost the last picture I made of her. The light was amazing. She's like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm like, fuck, Aaron, come on. The light's so good. Just sit the fuck down. And she sits down and she goes, you can photograph the back of my head. There's the picture. I don't think I would have, known to do it. And of course, I didn't go, oh, it's Eggleston. Great, perfect, wonderful. Okay, this is Russell Heights. This is Russell Heights and what it usually looks like. Most of the pictures I made were on either this street or the cross street that you see in front of you. It's a typical view of Russell Heights, but this is the Russell Heights that I created. And the Russell Heights of My Last Day at 17 is an Ireland of an eternal summer. And my notion was to make the neighborhood a little larger than life, because no matter where you grow up, when you grow up, the place that you grow up, that is your world. Doesn't matter how small it is, doesn't matter how kind of grubby it is your world. And I wanted a sense of that. So in a way, I sort of fabricated a slightly more cinematic version of Russell Heights. It has mystery. It's like, how do you get a dog and crows together? You throw some meat into the grass, the dog comes and the crows come in. That's how you make that picture. That's Jordan. Bapol, this is my return the second summer there. And I come in, I'm very nervous. How are they going to receive me? Blah, blah, blah. Jordan just sees me, runs up, he goes, take a picture of me up the pole. And he's up. He's like 50 feet in the air. I'm like, Jordan, get the fuck down, man. I got to set up my camera because it's a 4x5. I got to put it on the thing. And I send him up the pole, and he's hanging there. And I make one exposure, one sheet of film. I drop the slide in. And after I make that picture, 3 women come running out of the homes, and they're like, Jordan, get the fuck, get down from the pole. We tell you, we told you not to go up there. They start screaming at him. And then, of course, they turn to look at me, and they're like, oh, that fucking American is back. And that's how that goes. This is a picture I made that first summer, a bunch of kids playing on the wall. And what I did each summer is I brought back hundreds of little prints, little laser prints, and I gave them away in the neighborhood. And I did it for a couple reasons. I mean, I just wanted to give them nice pictures, but I also gave them away in order to redo a few. And this was one that I needed to redo. There was a mistake in this picture. And I gave it out to the kids, and we all got together. And I'm like, okay, I want you to look really hard at this picture and tell me what's wrong with it. And they're looking, and this kid, right? Oh, there's like a thing in here, right? Ah, there it is. This kid goes, hey, that's me here, and that's me here. And he goes, hey, I'm here, and I'm here. And that was cool, right? They liked the picture, and now I'm a magician. But one of the things in my toolkit is I often take multiple frames, and I will occasionally combine them. And I got like 2/3 of the way through this, and I realized I had doubled 2 kids. And I was like, oh well. And I was tempted to just leave it that way and just see if people would guess. But anyway, we redid it. And I didn't really like the frame. And we did it with a 4x5. And that's the picture I made with everyone. I'm yelling at them to fight and move this way and that way. It was like a movie. There's all the mothers are behind me, kind of watching the whole thing go on. And that's the photograph. I also make highly detailed and elaborate drawings of images. This is a series, this is a page about Simone. This is to do. See, Simone feeding the dog. That's what that says. So in case you can't figure it out, that's the dog. That's Simone. That's a dog dish. And then I'm very technical, very precise. Simone out of focus. See, that's what it is. But this is the picture I made of Simone. In a way, I sort of switched perspective. I'm now at the sort of dog's point of view. And again, that picture is several hours of work. We would clean out, we literally cleaned out the kitchen, took everything out of the kitchen, lit it, and she actually did feed the dogs, but this is the picture that I liked. And Simone was my favorite, one of my favorite subjects. This is her in her pajamas at about 2 in the afternoon, running around, beating up all the boys. And she was great.